Okay.
We are the very best. We don't associate with anybody else.
Okay.
All the issues and seasonal problems that plague the industry doesn't apply to us.
Okay.
Are you looking for a way to drive growth, sales, communication, and retention in your academy? Kovar Systems 6-month Program Director course is designed to help members of your team thrive in the important role of Program Director. With step-by-step training, we will cover a wide range of topics, including prospect follow-up, overcoming objection, and securing enrollments. Our program will teach your team members to effectively communicate the values and benefits of martial arts, which can be a game changer in securing more enrollments at your academy. Our next 6-month course starts on this date. So don't wait and visit our site, www.kovarsystems.com, to get your team enrolled in the upcoming course. Again, that's www.kovarsystems.com. Enroll now and get ready to see some real results in your business.
Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Satori Masters Podcast, the ultimate resource for ambitious, hardworking school owners that want to get their business and their life to the next level. My name is Dave Kovar. I'm a lifetime martial artist, business owner, speaker, and author. My goal is to empower listeners with the knowledge and the tools they need to break through barriers and really get their business and their life to the next level. Thanks for watching and enjoy. Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Satori Masters Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kovar, and with me today is Sensei Nathan Young. Say hello, sir.
Hey, greetings, Hanji.
All right. Well, it's super nice to have you on the phone. And Sensei Young runs a very successful school in Juneau, Alaska. And I'm going to kind of title this two kind of subtitles, and why I think this is unique. You and I have known each other for several years, and I think what you're doing is really cool. Is you're kind of small town success, okay, number one. And number two is bigger isn't better.
Right.
Okay? So kind of sum it up. So first off, a little background. This isn't, you had another career before you did this.
Yeah, I had a career as a firefighter for about 20 years, give or take, before we went full time. And
you were still teaching and training then, but you had a full-time job on the side.
Yeah, my wife and I just ran a hobby school nights and weekends like most people do.
Okay, so at what point did you decide, all right, did you know way ahead of the time before you retired that you're going to do this? Or at what point did you say, let's do this full-time?
Right, no, we didn't. We just had our second or third child. I was working about a time and a half job for the local city. And we just signed our life away on our very first commercial lease.
Okay.
And we realized we didn't have any time, and something had to go away.
Okay.
And we just got the lease. My wife didn't want to turn the kids back. And so it was time to exit the career, the vocational field to pursue the school.
Okay. And at the time when you started, like saying, okay, we're going to do this. I mean, I know you, we speak on a regular basis and to be a very methodical, very intentional person. So I'm sure this just didn't happen in the last 5 years I've known you. I'm sure it's been that way always. So what, how much, how much of a decision was that to decide I'm going to do martial arts full time?
It was huge, but we made it in about 5 months, which looking back was very, very fast.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing that's kind of unique, and then we'll go into some of the details, is that you've decided in this new martial arts world, you teach a very traditional. You teach, Japanese karate, if I want to pronounce it correctly, and kobudo.
Correct.
And so it's kind of like you're just kind of staying true to what you want to present to your students.
Yeah, we actually took it on as a bit of a challenge to see if we could run a traditional Japanese dojo, but use the techniques and strategy of a modern martial arts academy. If we could blend the two, it's been a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge, but it's been a fun challenge.
Okay, very cool. So let's dive into what you've learned since you went full time.
Sure, I've learned to come to value relationships.
Okay,
to value team, and to never underestimate a person. Because the least likely in a group is the one that's going to stay with you the longest, is going to rise to the top. Thinking back in my own training career, my childhood sensei had many hundreds of students.
Okay. And
the two that are still teaching, I joke that we're the C students. We're the ones in the back of the class that have two left feet, but we're the last two that are still there. So never underestimate people around
it's
you.
So true. I mean, how many times have I had that you have the natural athlete that you have all this potential, but sometimes it's so easy for them that when it gets hard, they just kind of drift off, right? And you have those other students and they're often, I mean, I'm looking at some of the team that we have, and there's a few of them that were that real spastic 2 left foot, but a lot of times they're just the kid you don't remember if they're in class that night or not. You know what I'm saying? They weren't the exceptional athlete, and they weren't the the real problem child. They were just that other person, and so many of our students fall into that category. And so it's really about consistency and showing up. So what, from a business standpoint, what mistakes have you made in the last few years? I'm sure there's been a few along the way.
What haven't we made?
Yes,
right. Yes, we've made a whole lot of mistakes. I think one of the biggest mistakes is that for a long time in my journey, I bought into my Japanese teacher's idea of elitism.
Okay.
We are the very best. We don't associate with anybody else.
Okay.
All the issues and seasonal problems that plague the industry doesn't apply to us.
Okay.
And I bought into that for a long time. I bought into it until the first summer in our commercial lease.
Okay.
When I looked around and go, oh, we're not immune. We're not above everything. We have summertime attrition problems. We need help. And that's when we started looking for coaching.
Okay.
And that was about 14 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. And it was like, okay, let's get some help and let's apply forward. So going forward, you've had ups and downs, but right now you're at a point to where, and also different kind of ideas of what you wanted your dojo to look like and be like. And by the way, it's never a finished product. There's always going to be something we're going to work on, but kind of, so tell us a little bit about the town you live in.
Sure. So we are located in Juneau, Alaska, which is the capital of the greatest state in the union, by the way. And we have about 32 to 33,000 year-round residents.
Okay.
We have another 15,000 that come in with the seasonal work in the summertime. Juneau is located on the mainland, but it's surrounded by glacier. Thousands of square miles of the Juneau ice field, and so technically we're on an island. You can drive from one end of the road to the other. We have about 26 miles of road. Everything is either flown in, or ferried, or ocean-going barge shipped in. You can't drive there. We don't get trucks, that stuff. So we're essentially an isolated island.
Wow. Yeah.
And so
where do the teenagers drag their cars? There's got to be some road in the back or something.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so basically with that, you kind of knew that, okay, this isn't going to be a 500 member school. That wasn't really your intention with that.
Right. And I think, looking back, all the classes and focus that we've taken in the martial arts community has always been about growing your school, getting more students, getting a second location, third location. And so that was always set in my mind that that's what we need to strive for. But recently, I was exposed to some ideas about being small and mighty. So the idea that starting with the end in mind, what do we want to create? What influences do we want to have in our community? What do we need our dojo to provide us personally? And then build up to that point, or even trim back to that point, so that you're a little bit more efficient. Maybe you're reaching less people, but you're reaching them more effectively than in mass. You're reclaiming some of your time. The stress goes down. And I think the hardest point for me personally in that transition idea is the checking of my ego.
Yeah.
Because the ego says, I want more, whereas this concept is the opposite of that.
Yeah, I think it's really important distinction. And so often, and you and I were talking during a session today about how, so often when we talk to another martial artist, the first question will come up is how many students you have.
Right.
And I'll ask that question. And I don't mean it like, oh, I have more than you, although it does sometimes become this, this competition in some people's mind. And the reason why I think that comes up is often is because if I don't know you that well and I say, how much money does your school gross, or how much money do you make? It's totally inappropriate, so it's kind of a point of reference. But bigger isn't better. It's just bigger. It can be. It's really kind of what you have to kind of decide what's the right fit for you, right? And so what you've kind of, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you've kind of settled in because your school was growing a lot, and now you're kind of going, you know what? I want a certain quality of student, and I'm going to maybe have a few less students, but it really, I'm going to treat them incredibly well, and it really serves the needs of my family and my time, and I can still make a living at it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, our focus has been, or is becoming, instead of getting more students in the door, how can we create a better student experience? So we're spending extra time developing our teachers, our bench strength for our teaching team. We're spending time tuning up our curriculum so that the time the students are on the mat is better. And then we're really been trying to connect with our parents, trying to serve them even more intentionally than we have in the past.
Yeah, and so I think, the bottom line is that what's interesting about this is that so often, and of course I've been in the industry a long time, and I've been involved in like coaching in some capacity for almost 35 years. Since we actually, it's a little over 30 years ago, I think, when we first hosted an EFC event back in, it was like 90. Actually, take that back. 1993, we had this big event at this location. We had just opened it. So we'd been in the school for 30 years now, or 31 years. And we were part of an educational funding company started by Nick Kokinos. And it was pretty much virtually almost every consultant in the martial arts industry can trace their heritage.
Sure.
In almost every case. There's a few exceptions to that. And very influential. And back in the 90s, that was really the only place in town to go to kind of get business ideas. And they're very great. And we hosted an event here in 1993, and we had about 300 school owners here. It would be like similar to our ProMAC events now, but a massive one. And at the time, I had, because my older brother was my business partner, I allowed me to focus on teaching systems. And so, I came up with the instructor's creed and SSL rule and a lot of the stuff that we use now. Anybody could have done it, but I had the time to do it. And my brother was on me like, hey, come up with some, you can't teach every class. You got to come up with some systems. And at the time I was going every weekend. We'd worked during every week, and every weekend I would be at a martial arts seminar or a Brian Tracy seminar or a Zig Ziglar seminar or a Tony Robbins or Stephen Covey, the list goes on, and I would take that information, I'd try to put it back into the school. So we were, I'd like to think we were ahead of the curve when it came to teaching strategy. So anyway, back to the story. So that we were asked to demonstrate a class, and what's interesting, back then, it was still, what style are you? Okay, we can talk business, but martial arts never enters the realm.
Sure. So
nobody really shared. We were sharing business ideas, but there was still kind of a lot of islands, and so it was very unusual at a martial arts event. Now we take it for granted if you get a martial arts business event, there's probably going to be some martial arts. That didn't happen then. It was, and so I was asked to teach it. So we demonstrated how we split the class and all these things, and then afterwards we had all these people going, "Oh man, could you do a video on that?"
Right.
So in 1993, I did a video called "How to Teach Martial Arts to Kids," and we sold thousands of them. They had a little manual that eventually ended up becoming a book. But that's when we started coaching schools, right? Mm-hmm. But over the last 30 years of doing this, this did have a point. I'm sure that it's really interesting to see how many different ways there are to be successful, right? But the whole time, it's always been people, when someone calls me and they want to, maybe get some advice with how to grow their school, they always focus on tell me how to get new members.
Right.
I have great retention. I have great retention. Now, once they come to me, they stay forever. So what you're talking about is not sexy. It's not like, oh yeah, this is how we got 43 new members last month, and we have 150 leads in the pipe, but it leads to longevity successes. In other words, it may not give you a double your gross next month, but over the course of decades, man, it's going to put you in such a great situation to the community.
One of the things that we really look at is we want to try to influence the students' lives, whatever their age is. And so the longer we can keep them on the mat, the more influence we have, the more lives we can change. And so that's kind of at the forefront, is how can we not just get them to come back one more class, but how can we get them to stay one more month, trying to push that time out. Yeah,
well, it's kind of like, and I know you know this to be true, and I know this to be true, there's something amazing when a kid grows up in a dojo.
Absolutely.
It's great for adults as well, but they're just a different kind of kid. They're more confident, more respectful, better work ethic, higher level of self-discipline. And it's kind of like, it kills me when somebody, because we have it, of course, when someone, discontinues their training, prematurely.
It hurts. You take each one personally.
Yeah, so we were talking about, a little bit today about different things you can do, but share, what do you think are some key things? Okay, I'm a school owner, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, my retention is great. Oh, let me see the stats. Oh, maybe it isn't so great after I look at the stats, right? So let's assume I realize that I can improve my retention, right? Yeah. And so what would be some things that I can do to keep students longer? Give me some meat. Give me something that I can actually put to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the numbers don't lie. And so I think the first step for the school owner, for the head instructor, is to actually truly understand and embrace what their quit rate is, or whatever, however you want to label that. That was something big that I had to come to terms with, is not having excuses or fictitious numbers, but understand what they are. So give me
some important stats. Give me 3 or 4 stats that you think are like bottom line. You got to make sure you're keeping track of these.
Yeah, I think it's important to see who hasn't trained this week.
Okay.
So we have a pro card system. We have an electronic CRM also that can do that for us. But seeing who hasn't been on the mat this week, because if I'm not on top of this week, then it turns into 2 weeks, which turns into a month, which turns into they're not coming back.
Okay, super important. So knowing what students weren't in this week so that you can be proactive about it. It's interesting. Last week I was doing a presentation for a group, a chain of schools, very, very, really good people, really good, successful, been around for a long time, and we were talking about this subject, and they all looked at each other like, oh yeah, we used to call students when they didn't show up. We should probably do that.
Right.
It's kind of this basic thing that's so easy to get out of the habit of doing.
And today you can even text them, so it takes even less time.
Yeah.
And
totally.
a lot of people prefer that method of communication.
I think the key is knowing what they like, right? And so you can speak their language. So, okay.
Attention all martial arts professionals and business owners.
Prepare to ignite your passion and sharpen your skills.
Join us at ProMAC International, the ultimate gathering of martial arts excellence in Carmichael, California from May 16th to the 18th.
Unlock new opportunities, forge lasting connections, and elevate your business to new heights.
Don't let this chance pass you by.
Secure your spot now. Go to ProMACconference.com. Let's shape the world of martial arts for the better. So now one thing I can do is I can make sure that I reach out to students that weren't in this week. Give me some other things that I can do.
I think the communication with the parents on the personal level when they're in. I think one of the most important jobs that we can do is actually walk up and talk to the parents. Ask, not just how's your day going, but tell us something that went well, something that you're struggling with, because that kind of opens the door to some insight about what's going on in their life. And I've found that as a lead teacher on the mat, I'm able to do some parent coaching, some parent-to-parent coaching. We have 3 kids, so I don't know how to be the ideal parent, but I can share challenges and ideas with them.
So there's somebody right there that's saying, sure, man, you don't understand. I'm really busy. I don't have time. And I would remind you guys, it's not how you can't, but why you can't, but how you can. So the concept here is you break it down. Okay. It makes total sense to be able to, get to know the parents and communicate with them for so many really reasons. But the first thing you do is, hold on, I'll never have time to do that. So how do you make that happen?
So I set the goal of one more. So at when I see people coming in and out of the parking lot and I see the child, I actually pull them up on the computer so I remember their parents' names. And then just with one. So I just find one name I can see coming through the door, and I walk over and greet them by name and just make a point to talk to and connect with one parent each day.
Okay. So you're intentional about this. And I love the fact that you pull up the kid's name, because here's what's really interesting. When you know their name, you're more likely to talk to them. Yep. Right. And there was a point up until we had about 400 members, I knew everybody's name and I knew every parent's name. Right. But then it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And, it was like with a conscious effort. But I remember one particular case, there was 2 parents. One of them, the mom, I didn't know the name. The other name was Marcia. And I remember her name because it was from the Brady Bunch, the oldest sister. Right. That's how I remember her name. And so who did I go and talk to? Marcia, because I knew her name. And it was like, oh, wow, I should and guess who trained longer? Marcia's kid trained longer.
She had a personal connection.
The parents kids whose the names of your parents, they train with you longer.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so I've got calling people when they don't show up, making a connection with parents. By the way, another thing about this is that it's harder to quit relationships. You know what I'm saying? Especially in this post-COVID transactional world where, everything's more automated and there's less communication. The fact that I have a connection with you, that makes this really strong.
Community.
Yes.
Community. Building the community is the number one thing, I think.
Okay. All right.
Both on the mat, but also the extracurricular stuff that we do. So the parent night out events, the potlucks, the game nights.
You do
the
something
team
every
nights.
May. You have an event where
We do. Yeah, so we actually we rent a retreat. It's kind of remote. There's cabins, there's dining halls. It's staffed. They cater to us, and we take a whole weekend. We reserve it, and we take the entire dojo. We have about 175 students and their families out. We're sleeping in bunk cabins. We're eating great food. We're training on the sandy beach in front of the mountains. We're zip lining. We're canoeing. There's horses. So Friday night we go out, and then Sunday afternoon we come back in. It's just amazing experience.
And it really doesn't. Do you make money? Do you break even?
We just break even,
and that's good. That's okay. The
Yes.
whole point of this is because in the long run, okay, you charge a little more. You got half as many people to show up because
Right.
but you doubled the amount of money you made. So look how much I made, $14,000 this weekend. But by all those people that showed up to that weekend and had a good experience, guess what? They're training with you. It's going to be harder for them to quit.
Absolutely.
Not only because their connection with you becomes stronger, but their connection with their community and their fellow students and the parents of the two. One of the things is like if you and I both have kids in the same class and you and I strike up friends and my son doesn't want to go to class, but I know you're going to be there. Guess what? Come on, Alex, get your gi on. We're going to class.
Some great accountability.
Yes. Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay. So what else goes into, retention?
Yeah. So I think the culture of the school, we recognize that life is hard. It's getting harder. There's lots of negative stuff outside the dojo. And so we intentionally try to create the environment inside of our school that's a sanctuary. With our teachers, I use the analogy of every single parent, every single child that comes through the door comes in running on fumes. They have an empty gas tank. We have 45 minutes to pump as much gas into their gas tank so they have the energy to go out and live one more day. That's our goal.
I love that. I love that analogy, and that's it's a tall order, but
It
what
is.
a great thing to be thinking about doing, and it's so true. And so if you're thinking about that, it's not just so the class is not just for the kids, but it's also for the very intentional about the experience that the parents have when they're into the school.
Yes.
So how have you? You're very much like you've got you're very conscientious of your what your spending habits, your investing habits. You're a very well-read guy. You're always reading books, and you're always trying to improve that aspect of it. So give me some things. How can I? Don't I have to have a lot more students to make more money? Don't I have to double the number of students to double my income?
Well, you can go that route.
Okay.
Absolutely. It all depends on what your motivation and drive is. But I believe in setting up framework. So if you're going to build a big building, you have to pour a foundation, but then you bring in scaffolding, you bring in cranes, and then you build up to the framework that you've prepared for it. And so I really believe in systems. I believe in making sure we have a good accountant.
Okay.
So that I have the support staff and the systems to grow, and at the same time as we're growing, provide a increasingly better experience for the students and the families.
Okay, good. Now, what about experience to school owners as far as like how they can, take better care of their family, plan for the future? So what are some of the things that you would tell them?
Absolutely. So I think having the goals in mind, right? So Stephen Covey has the idea of starting with the end in mind. Where do you want to end up? Where do you want to be? And maybe that's not clear to you. A great book that you had shared with us last year, the Lions Tracker's Guide to Life.
Isn't that a great book?
Oh, it's fantastic. There's a quote in there that you'd shared with us that I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how I'm going to get there.
I love that. It's one of my favorite, quotes. Absolutely.
It totally resonated with me. And I think that's the advantage that school owners who are in a coaching program have coaches, have systems, can identify and benefit with, is that we might not have a clear understanding of where we're going to go. But if we're following and doing our tasks every day, we're going to get there, and it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, totally. And it's one of those things that seems to me so obvious, but it's so easy to forget. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what? My favorite quote is "Take care of the days and the years take care of themselves," and that's almost another way of saying that quote. It's like, what do I got to do? So when you want to provide for your future, Like for example, I'm looking now, I've been into doing this a long time and I've got a couple decades on you. And I'm looking at like, okay, wow, where, like I'm not going to do this forever, and so being really mindful of a lot of things that I've done well to set my family up for a successful retirement, and a lot of things that I could have done better, and I don't think it's never too late to take action. Like I know guys are, it's too late, whatever. I should have started that years ago. It's kind of like, when's the best time to plant a tree?
Yep.
Right now is 10 years ago was the best time to plant a tree. The second best time is right now.
Just like buying a house, right?
Yeah, 100%, right? Exactly. So it's kind of like, so give me, do you like take some of your budget yourself to be taking money off the top and invest in it? What's kind of your strategy? Because I know you're very conscious of this.
So a number of years ago, I had stumbled across a book called Profit First.
Yep.
And it's a cash management system. It's not an accounting system. It doesn't take place of that, but it helps you understand about how to handle your incoming money. And we started this 8 years ago. And I can tell you without a doubt that the only reason that we are still in business, the only reason that we made it through the pandemic and that hardship was because we had implemented that system. And I'm grateful for it every single day. And so that's something, it's a book, right? It's $15 on Amazon, Profit First. Mike Michalowicz is the author. He has a whole series of business books that has greatly benefited our dojo. So I would say that Profit First and second in the series called The Pumpkin Plan are the two that have really propelled our dojo systems-wise, people-wise.
So why is it important? Why is it good for the student experience for you to not have the stress of paying the rent?
Because if the money's coming in, you can do anything, right? If that is off the table, if there's a little bit extra for providing a coffee service on Saturday mornings to your early morning parents, right? The little extras, they don't really cost anything, but when you're trying to figure out how to pay the rent and pay their utility bill, which we've been there for many, many years, how to make payroll, you can't even think about the little extra nice things for the parents.
It's kind of like, the quote, those that have their health have 1,000 goals, those that don't have but one. And so when you're struggling for survival, you can't think about it. It's kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When you're at survival, you don't think about anything else past that.
Absolutely.
And so it's a hard thing for people to grasp, but is that it's in the best interest of your student body for your school to be, financially solvent and successful, because then, I've had issues trying to figure out how I'm going to get through things, right? And it doesn't make you a better teacher. It doesn't make you, it's almost like people can smell desperation. You know what I'm saying? They can smell fear. When things are good and your business is profitable. And by the way, I believe it's got to, your intentions have to be right, because if you're just about, that's all you're about, you're going to have a few maybe years of success, but it's going to come back to bite you, right?
It's shallow.
So that you're there, you're service minded, but you understand that part of that is I got to service the needs of my family by making sure I provide a good living for them, right? And but if that's your mindset, man, that just makes for it just
poisons a well. It poisons a well.
Yeah. So give me some like some tips if you were to all right, so you had somebody here that's in a room that school is struggling, and maybe for various reasons, who knows? Maybe they're just having they've lost their passion, or they had some issues with staff members. They're just going through a rough time right now. So we were talking about this earlier, that life is not easy, and we all have challenges on a pretty much regular basis. So give me something that I could put to work to kind of help me get through that low time.
Yeah, I think the mindset is just super important. It is so easy to get in a bubble and think that no one else is having a hard time, right? The grass is greener on the other side of the fence. What's wrong with mine? But we're all struggling, and each of our struggles are just as big as the next person's struggle, even though they're different.
Yes.
But I think it's important to kind of take a step back and understand why you're doing it. We do it to encourage and to equip students and families to thrive in life. That's really what we're going to do. And so when I can put a smile on a 6-year-old's face because I gave them a high five and stooped down and greeted them by name, right? That's an impact to their day. They got encouraged.
Yeah, I love it. So, it's kind of like the 3 types of motivation: desperation, inspiration, and purpose. You're motivated by desperation. You do what you got to do to pay the rent, but usually your you kind of back off, or inspiration. You do some event that you're really excited. You go to a seminar or read a book, and which is great. There's nothing wrong with that, but those tend to be temporary. But what you're talking about is purpose, like making sure that you create a vision of your school, why you're there, and you visit it often. You kind of go back to that. For me, this has been the key, why I still love this after all these years, is that and by the way, it's not always that way. I have to consciously and intentionally remind myself. Otherwise, it's very easy to get dragged down into the weeds, so to speak.
This is so important. I think we can't underestimate the power of what a dojo does in a community. Mm-hmm. At some point, a school is going to experience a suicide, right? Mm-hmm. We've experienced that over the years, and it's horrible. It's tragic. But if I can use that to remind myself and my team that each person that comes through the door is in desperate need of their gas tank getting filled up that day, it puts all the other issues off to the side.
Yeah, man. We had an event today, an Ascend, and Mr. Young is a member. Our Ascend is our mastermind group. We don't really market it. It's part of ProMAC. It's part of Kovar Systems. But we had a great day today. But one of the gentlemen that was there was formerly a law enforcement officer. And he was talking about how it's important to do that. And by the way, anybody that's in law enforcement, nothing but respect. I mean,
that is a higher calling right there.
And I couldn't do it because it would steal my soul from me. I'm not strong enough to be able to separate that. And I've seen so many of my friends that went down that world. And you being in the firefight, that's like a sister industry. There's a little of that, maybe not to the same amount, but there's probably plenty of people that get tainted by the business. And his comment is, you know what? I gave that up. I did it for 8 years, but it was killing me. And it was a great job. It paid well. It had great benefits and retirement and all that. But man, I'm on the other end now. Yep. The fact that what I'm doing now, I'm going to make it, and it's so true, if we all do our jobs right, running our martial arts schools to the best of our ability, creating the best citizens possible, then what's going to happen is it's going to make it easier on the law enforcement, so it's kind of like prophylactics versus therapeutics.
It's just rebuilding the community.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it.
So important. And
as long as we remember that, if that kind of, we wake up every morning and remember, and one of the things that, I do, and you're familiar with it, I'm sure you have a similar routine. And I did it this morning when I came in here, is I wander through the school and I take it all in and I remember what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and kind of take a breath. And we've got a busy day, but how lucky am I to be able to do this for a living? And then when you have that mindset, everything goes better. That
magic moment before you turn the lights on, when it's quiet, it's still. And it's important to appreciate all the work and effort and the people, the generations before us that have made this dojo, your dojo, my dojo, possible.
Yes, sir. So, both of our Kabuto instructors, Shun Mikao Nishiuchi, an amazing guy, and who I love dearly, and he's like a second father to me. And anyway, but he talked to, and I remember, you probably remember the lesson. I'm sure he gave it to you, but it's ASA, and ASA stood for acceptance, satisfaction, and appreciation.
Absolutely.
And so like okay, whatever happens, accept it. And by the accepting does not mean that you, oh, my car has a flat tire, I guess I'm going to sit here in my car or accept that. No, you're going to take action, but you're not going to go, why'd that happen to me? And you're just going to, okay, it happened, now deal with it, right?
Be victorious in the moment.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. And, just to make it a point, satisfaction, it's interesting because I have a thing that rings into my head that you learned years ago, happy but not satisfied. But it's kind of semantics. What Shion Nishiuchi's talking about with satisfaction is taking a moment and going, wow, look at that beautiful sunrise. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of ties into to appreciate the little moments that sometimes we forget about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Well, closing thoughts. What would you tell, any other bits of wisdom or things that you'd want to tell another school owner?
I think this is the best time in history to be running a dojo. It's the best time in history to start a dojo. And what I'm really excited about is the career opportunities that young people have. Mm-hmm. You can actually have a very great career, not a job, but a career in martial arts. And more employers are looking for the black belt on their application.
100%.
Right? Families' lives are being changed. There's more and more groups like Kovar's and the ProMAC events out there making this industry better every day. And so I'm excited for today, but I'm even more excited for tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's really interesting is that you kind of brought back a flashback when back in the day. No, but when I opened up my own martial arts school. I kind of took over school when I was 19. I'm sure I've told you the story 150 times. I tell it every chance I get, it seems like. But I would have never done that if I could have just gone to work for my instructor. But that wasn't even a remote option. And now it is. It's pretty cool. It's like a good. Well, I appreciate your time and your friendship, and thanks for being on the show. And if anybody wanted to reach out to you, do you have an email address they could reach out to you at?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Sensei at junokarate.com. We're on the web, Facebook, Instagram, and they could reach out anytime.
All right. Very cool. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Hanji.
All right. Bye-bye.
Are you a martial arts instructor looking to improve your teaching skills and build a strong team of future instructors? Well, look no further than the Satori Alliance, an international association of martial arts instructors. Our mission is to positively impact the global martial arts community by establishing a shared level of martial arts instruction, professionalism, and continuous learning. With our instructor certification program, you'll gain the confidence, communication skills, and classroom management techniques to run a professional and well-run martial arts floor of any age group. We invite you to schedule a free consultation with one of our program directors who can evaluate your instructor team's size, schedule, and training content. We'll outline the Satori Alliance master steps that have helped build and maintain strong teams of instructors. To learn more about the Satori Alliance and schedule your free consultation, please visit our website at www.thesatorialliance.com/podcast. That's SATORIALLIANCE.com/podcast. Join our community of passionate martial arts instructors today.
Thank you for tuning in today to our podcast. I hope you found it valuable and inspirational. To stay connected, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you go for your podcasts. If you enjoyed today's show, please give us a 5-star review. And we really sincerely would appreciate some feedback. Your feedback helps us to create high-quality content that will help others in the future. If you'd like to follow me, you can go to Dave Kovar on Facebook or Hanchi Dave Kovar on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on next episode.